Hi there, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the special Halloween podcast with me, Barbara Bad Elk, and my daughter, Sam Elk. Today, we are talking with our special guest, Kenny Frost. Kenny's a member of the Ute tribe, an elder, and a traditionalist. He's joined us today to speak of some of his experiences with the spiritual world. Now, Kenny, you said that you worked with a government program?
I'm a Native American consultant, so I work with federal agencies in the protection of sacred religious sites. Oftentimes, those sacred places or those powerful places are attached to the spiritual realm of
Mhm.
our people.
So that's who our guest is, and he is somebody I look up to, and he's done so much for Native American people in and around Colorado. But what we're talking about for this special Halloween podcast, we're so excited because we love talking about spirits. We love talking about hearing about other people's spiritual stories. So just to start it off, I do want to tell you, Kenny, that the one story we want to share with you is something that happened to both of us. You were 15 or 14 at the time.
Yeah.
And we were doing a ceremony. It was actually the moon ceremony. And we were outside, and it was really dark. And as we're doing it, the wind starts blowing up. And we could hear it. It sounded like a train coming over the houses, like over the rooftops. And it was just coming with such full force. And it was, if you could imagine if the wind coming like a magnifying in sound, it kept doing that. And I even got wigged out and scared. And I'm looking at her, I'm trying to be brave for her. And the whole reason for doing it was because my teacher had told me that he wanted me to do it with her because they wanted to introduce themselves to her. And so I wasn't expecting much of anything, just to do the moon ceremony, which I've done many times before. And so we're sitting in the garden outside in our backyard. And then the wind comes and we're listening to the wind, and I look at Sam and we're still praying. And then the wind, if you can imagine, it swirled around us. I could feel it swirling around us. It was this huge gust of wind. And in that wind, we heard, and it was clear as crystal, her name, Samantha. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't even do Sam.
Samantha.
I walked into this with no expectations. I was doing my own thing in my room, and I just went outside. I was like, okay, I'll be out here for like 15 minutes tops. And yeah, I got blown away. I was pretty skeptical about everything. So that kind of just, knocked me in the head and made me realize, like, yeah, there's stuff out there, and you got to keep your mind open. So
yeah. So that was our story. But we'll give the floor over to you because I want to hear so much.
Oh yeah, you hear our elders, they say things and the same thing that happened to you guys is sometimes when you don't believe in stories that our elders say, you don't you're skeptical. It's like the creator bops you on the head, wake up.
yeah,
There are things out here that do exist. And you ask the elders these questions, and they tell you the answer will come down the road or later. You keep asking them questions, and you keep saying that. And then finally, when the answer comes, dink, bops your head that there's something unexplainable out there, but yet you still don't get the answers.
Mm-hmm.
That's how our elders have always been, and some of the things that I've been in, have seen and heard and witnessed and been a part of, I still ask that question. Okay, because we're taught who, what, when, and how, because
yeah.
we live in this world. In the traditional sense, it's like let it go. It happened, accept it, and grasp it and believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the modern side of belief system versus our traditional side of our belief system that we have to accept that things are out there that are unexplainable but do exist. And
And you
that's
don't need an answer.
And that's your kind of your answer, like what I would, if you were to ask an elder, they would tell you the same thing I just told you, is we don't, we don't, we will probably never fully understand how those things developed or how it was created, but we accept it as such in a belief system.
Right.
And one of the interesting things was because we're talking about spirits and we look at modern society today, a story that comes to mind, and I got to meet Will Sampson long ago when I was younger, before he passed away, the movie Poltergeist.
Yeah,
And
he was in that movie, correct?
yeah, and that movie, if you ever watch Poltergeist from the beginning, because there was a number of movies that were made, and at the very first time you watch the first Poltergeist with Will Sampson, because he's Native American, and the producers were wanting to go into that spiritual realm and that belief system of the Native American people, that Will Sampson and some of the elders who I spoke to long ago, I remember one elder from Montana told me, he says, Will's getting close to opening that door and he's going to open something that he may not understand. And these non-natives are going to be afraid because that Native American portion of that is going to be hard to control. Well, as the movie series was going, finally they got into this next segment of the series of the movie Poltergeist, that it was getting more scarier and scarier. And at the at that time, Will died. And then the young girl who was in that movie with him from the beginning also died. Different film employees who worked on that movie also died, unexplainable. They filmed that movie, but they kept it, but they did not release it. And a lot of the elders at that time said he got close and he couldn't control Pandora's box. And everybody died on that movie set because they were getting so close to that spiritual realm in the Native American belief system. The other thing too is that because of my traditional teachings and belief system is, and we all wonder, what did Will open? What did he do? And I know myself, and I know a lot of Native people out there. We always wonder, and we hear stories. We hear stories. We see things that happen to us. And another movie that comes to mind is The Entity. Now, if you really want to get scared, that's one you got to see because and it's a true story because I looked it up and did research on it. And there's things out there that exist, unexplainable, but yet in Barbara Hershey's case, it took the verbatim what happened to that lady, and this particular entity was a sexual predator per se, because it did a lot of sexual things to the women in that movie, and then you also had the people from the university, UCLA, I believe, or USC, California, the paranormal division, which was just barely starting out, and that was their big scientific hoopla, was they captured everything that happened in that movie, which added credence to there's things out there that we don't and can't control, but yet do exist. And that one, you watch that movie, and it's because I was in a movie with Barbara Hershey one time, and a number of years back, and I asked her about the movie Entity, and she had this look of fright on her, and she said that was one of the most scariest movies I ever had to do because, and the things that the entity did to her, they had to recreate it in such a way, in a manner that, because she was basically nude in that movie in order to show the things that this entity was doing. And it was, for her, it was an overwhelming and scary feeling because this thing was actually attacking her physically and sexually, that it was scary. And she said, there's things you guys you guys, Native American belief system have that nobody can explain but yet do exist. And she said, I had Native people ask me about that movie and other things, and here we're making this movie, and that's always in the back of my mind that there's going to be something there that nobody can control but does exist.
Mhm.
And so with Halloween coming around the corner, sometimes people who go out trick-or-treating, they see things and things happen to them that they go, ooh, you go to the spooky houses, and sometimes I had people or friends that I knew that went into a spook house. Something touched them. They knew the people who worked in the spook house. They said, "Were you over there doing that to me?" And no, why? He said something grabbed me right there, and I screamed and hollered, but I looked, nobody was there, and they take off running. So even in spook houses, those things happen. And I remember when growing up, my grandmother used to tell me that this is the time or the period that, because we look at witches, warlocks, monsters, every scary thing that's out there. And probably one of the reasons our elders always told us as young kids is never go outside in the dark because there's spirits out there and you don't know what's out there.
Mhm.
So they say don't go to that spook house because that's the opening for those spirits to come in, because everybody's accepted it, and they come out and they come in and they scare the holy heck out of people.
Mhm.
And I remember one time in my law enforcement days, because we're talking about spirits and we're letting this kind of flow, is that we see the devil, we hear the devil, we people profess, confess everything that the dark side does exist. And so we're done doing a bar check, and my friend's non-native, little guy, and walks around like that, struts around like tough guy, to laugh at him, and I said, "Quit walking like that. They're gonna want to beat you up." He just looked at me. I used to get a kick. And one day we're doing this bar check, and we did this, walked into this bar, packed, just packed, and it was a Spanish celebration, and we saw this guy. I mean, this guy was dead gorgeous. Any woman would fall over for him. I mean, for me to say that about a guy, he had tons of women with him, and all the women were flocking around him, and they were dancing, and then on top of that, the guy could dance, and the women were just dancing. He had about 3, 4 women with him dancing, just watching him and stuff. And then I just happened to look down at his feet, and I saw something which was interesting. I thought I saw a tail of a devil out of his pants leg, and I'm standing there, and I'm like, "What?" And my partner looks up, what? I said, "You see that guy over there dancing?" He said, "Yeah, he's got a lot of women. Watch it and tell me what you see, but look at his leg, pants leg, and see if anything comes out." He said, "Comes out?" "No, just watch." So he's looking, he's got glasses, really squinting, and I just kind of look at it, but I'm just kind of, having fun with him. And then he said, "Oh, crap." I said, "What? What'd you see?" "I think I saw a forked tail come out of his pants leg." "What color?" He said, "Red." He said, "That's what I thought I saw." So about right when we said those words, he looked over at us and his face changed, beelined it out the door. I told him, "Come on, let's go see where he went." The building's a long building, but the doorway's in the middle. So we were probably 20 feet behind him, catch him, just tell him where you're going and stuff, just small talk. But by the time we hit the door, and because it's a long building, he was gone. I mean, he was gone. We went around. I told him, "Run around that way, see if he's around the corner." We both did. We both took off a different direction. He was gone just that quick. So, and that's one of the stories here that my grandmother and a lot of the youths here used to say long ago, was that that's the time that the devil comes out, and we got to witness the devil because he was dead drop, gorgeous looking, handsome guy. And so, and even to witness it now and to think about that time, it makes you wonder: do those things do exist? There's your thunder.
Oh,
Yes, yes, it actually just started doing that a couple of minutes back. Thank you for bringing it on, Carrie.
How do you like that for sound effects, huh?
Right, exactly. No, I wanted to just quickly mention that story that you told me. I heard about when I went back to Sioux Valley back in '97, and one of my cousins, actually, one of my relatives had told me that they stopped going to powwow several years prior because there was a story, or they saw there was somebody that appeared at the Sioux Valley powwow, and nobody knew who this person was, and this person was just dancing around. No women were following him, but he was dancing around with everybody else, and people started noticing his feet. His feet were actually hooves, and people, as I said, word got around, people got freaked out, and everyone left. And apparently that was the one time. Now this is just a story that was told to me, but the one time that Sioux Valley powwow ended early, because as you know, it goes on for several days. It ended early because everyone packed up and left, and no one ever saw that guy again. This person. So yeah, the story of the devil is so real. Now, I have a question though for you. Why is it that the devil would be attending powwows? I mean, what is it that
or dances.
Yeah,
We've got that dance too.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of things that are out there. Like our elder said, there's things out there that do exist, and that's a good question. Is what would the devil be coming out for a powwow to dance and for Native people, we don't believe in a good and bad. We
Right.
don't believe, because when the Christians came and told us you're going to go to hell, Indians were saying, "What's hell?" We don't have a hell. But non-natives believe that way, and a lot of those things go back into time that are unexplainable. That stories that our elders tell us talks about the dark side, and that those things do exist out there, but yet they tell you don't talk about it. Don't say those things, but yet we do know that they exist.
Mm-hmm.
And there's and sometimes our elders would say only those who have the ability are the ones who are able to see those things. Not everybody will see the same thing that we may look at.
Mm-hmm.
Like at that dance floor, my partner, because I'm thinking, and because I grew up in that spiritual realm, that spiritual belief system from the time I was small, that I can see things, and I would tell somebody, "Go look at that person. What do you see?" So that's what I did with my non-native friend, and tell me what you see, but keep watching him, and he did, and then when he saw it, then I knew that, okay, this guy exists. I didn't see things because sometimes I would tell people, "Do you see anything wrong with that person or anything happening?" They would say, "No, no, it's okay." So I take it as it was only meant for me to see, and no one else to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's goes along those lines, the same thing too. That those maybe the people that did see it were the ones who were tied to the tradition and believed in it 110%. That they were the only ones to see it. So they closed up the powwow for the safety of the people.
Right. Yeah, now I know that there's a lot of people out there that talk about or that have not seen anything. Like when we recount our stories with different people that because we see, like, especially her, my daughter's seen so many spirits throughout her life. Like it's a normal thing for her, things to happen around her, even at her work. People know that she's this magnet for spiritual happenings around her. But then there's people that don't have anything happen to them and they don't see a thing. So I just wonder too, how much of that is, and being a skeptic, but I also walk on the spiritual side. But how much of that is like mentally induced, like your imagination?
Right.
But
Well,
it's kind of hard to disagree with when there's a whole crowd of people. Like, for instance, when you and I heard that wind and speak your name.
Mhm.
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. I remember one. We're talking about the spiritual realm, and because we're skeptical. I remember one time working in a tribal office when I was education director, and I was working past midnight because I had some timelines I had to meet immediately for the government education office, and the tribal office was a tribal office, but it used to be the hospital, and the morgue used to be there. And one night at midnight, when the police officers came to check on the building, why was there lights on? So they had the keys, so they came up and we sat there talking and made coffee and we were just talking. Midnight, we're the only ones in the building. All of a sudden, we heard footsteps up on the second floor, and I'm in the first floor. And he says, "You hear that?" And I said, "Yeah." But there have always been stories of people who were there at night. They would hear things happening. So he said, he'll go up the top floor and I'll go to the bottom." So went up, connected. There was nothing. So we go back down and we said, "Okay, that was interesting," and because it was probably spirits walking. Well, we're sitting there and we're drinking coffee. We're just kind of talking, and all of a sudden we can hear those old-fashioned typewriters, IBM typewriters,
Mm-hmm.
clicking away. And he said, "Listen." And I said, "Oh, that's down by the chairman's office." So he said, "Let's walk down there." So we're walking very carefully, creeping down that way to in the hallway, and we're standing right outside the vice chairman's door, and the typewriter is just moving like 100 words a minute. I mean, looking really
Wow.
fast.
No?
And then he had the key, opened the door. Well, first we knocked. He said, "Please open the door," and nothing, but the typewriter is still going, making noise. And he had the key, opened the door. We looked in, lights were on, where all the office lights were off, but that was on, nothing. Clocks are back up. I tell him, "So, okay, I think it's time for me to go home." It's one of those buildings where you could walk out in the dead of night and you could sense eyes looking out at you from that building of the spirits. It was, and believe it or not, that story that I told you about buildings having eyes at night, every Indian reservation has those.
Well, can I tell you the story then that I experienced? I was working with the Cooleutes back in 2013. And I was working in the building late at night and nobody else was there except one other employee. And he's on the far end on the far end of the building that I was working in. And I had to go to use the lavatories, which was in the middle of this long building. And you had to go through this door that nobody ever shut. It was always standstill. It never moved. Anyway, so I went out into the middle of the building to use the lavatory, and as soon as I walked into the bathroom, women's bathroom, I heard this loud slam. Now, mind you, everything else in the building was dark. It was only light in our part of the building where we're working. And I knew this person that was working there was not a trickster. There's not somebody who would do that. They're a workaholic. They wouldn't do something like that. But I'm thinking automatically because it's late and it's like probably like 12:30, 1 o'clock, and I'm irritated, annoyed. So I came back out of the bathroom, and sure enough, that door is closed shut and it's locked. So fortunately, it had glass on it. So I'm banging on it because I didn't have the keys to get in, the other part of that building. So I had to go through that door. So finally, this, my coworker emerges. I see him at the end of the hallway coming towards me, and his hands are like, "What?" And I'm like, "Open this door." He opens the door, and I said, "Why did you close that door?" He goes, "What are you talking about? I didn't close that door. I was working." And I could tell from his look on his face that he was sincere. But yeah, that is that I've heard about tribal buildings and people would warn me about the tribal buildings. And I've had several incidents and experiences as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I think every tribal office out there on every Indian reservation, we all have that. How we can all relate to the same experience
Hmm.
because they do exist, and I told that story to various tribal people from different reservations, and they just like you say, "Oh, you won't believe what happened to me." And
Do you have another story that you like maybe somebody else told you that has happened that stands out in your mind?
oh, since we're talking about buildings, the tribal office is here, and then we used to have a casino like just just a little right, well, kind of across the road. And one of the things was I was working security at the casino in my younger days, and we had all the police officers up there after midnight. Everybody come up to the restaurant, drink coffee, and then we just happened to look across the way, rooms 1, 2, and 3. For whatever reason, those lights would click on at night. So we had the town police there, the tribal police there, another security guard with me, and we're all drinking coffee. We saw the lights go on, and we said, "Do you see that?" And we all looked at each other. Yeah, and we all knew that that particular number of rooms was was spooky because those lights would appear. So we go up to the front desk. We walk over there. Another police car is coming, and then there was another police car coming around the backside. But as we get close to the front desk, we see something take off running. We all look at each other and we said, "Did you see that?" It went right underneath the couch. The open couch is that high, well, maybe that high, but it went under there, and one went this way, went this way, one went. We looked in the middle. Flashlights all went underneath. Nothing.
Now, was it a form of a person, small being, or like an animal?
It was a little man about this, maybe a foot high, a little people. And the non-natives, we said, "Did you guys see that?" They said, "Yeah." And it went right underneath the couch. We shined the flashlights underneath, nothing. So we said, "Okay." The non-natives said, "Maybe I should go back." No, we got to go check out those lights.
That would have been good.
He started laughing, and he said, "You guys have spooky things in your culture." And we said, "Yeah." And that was, he said, "I saw it just run right underneath." And we all looked at it. And that's called the little people. So he said, "Whatever those little people, I hope it stays here and not go with me in my car." And so we said, "Okay, let's go check out this." So we radioed. One went around the back, the other one around the back. Outside, we go through the hallway to the room. I got the key. Another police car is coming around the backside because it drops down into this open area where there's a ditch. So there's a road down by the park. So we all converged all at about the same time. We get to the doorway, the carpet's wet. But yet, because we're stepping on it, we could hear the squishy sound. We open the door, we look inside, check the carpet on the floor, no water, nothing. But yet, we open there, look the room, nothing, nobody used the room. The door to the exit was open that much. Oh, just a crack. We open the door, look down, there's an animal footprint there, like a big dog, about that big, a footprint. And all fours are standing there. And then, no, it was a human's footprint. Human? Yeah, human, but that big. And then it went walking, and it had just snowed. And one of the interesting things was it turned to a human foot, animal footprint, but that big old paw. And then it jumped 4 feet, and you could see the dirt in the snow had moved up. So I grab a stick, checking it, and it's fresh. I mean, really fresh. And then you hear it going down to the ditch, and then over to the open field, running very fast. I mean, really quick. We see the police car coming that way. So we get on the radio. Said, what do you see running across in front of you? And he says, oh my God, that's the biggest dog or animal I ever seen in my life. He said, what is it? He said it was black, but it ran across. We said, if that thing attacks you, shoot it. He said, no, it just kept running and looked at me, and he had this big, beady, long nose and like green eyes looking at me. He said, no, I ain't going to shoot it. I ain't getting off either. And he said, follow it. He said, he followed it with this light. You could see his spotlight going out. We could barely see him take it off, but it was gone just in a matter of seconds, really quick and fast. So we come back up. He says, you guys going back? So we got back into the front desk area, and we're all talking about what we just witnessed. And then the captain, the Indian police at the time, said, I'm going to go up to the police department, grab a camera, and take a picture of the tracks and everything to document. So we all go back there. We didn't say anything. We just kind of stood there and kind of, I guess, probably in shock what we just witnessed and taking photographs. And then we go back, we drink some coffee, and then we said, okay, this is those things that we can't explain. That one, you had little people who started it off because everybody saw that. The non-natives said, okay, I think it's time for me to go home and go to sleep because there's only 2 non-native officers for town, and he said, you guys can handle this. There's enough crazy things out there. And mind you, come to think of it, it was just before Halloween, a week before.
Well, they say that the veil thins before Halloween, right? So we have our own, like, we would see cats around.
I want to talk about that because, like, why does that happen? Do you know if there's a reason?
What is the native perspective on the thinning veil before, like, around this time of year?
Well, one of the things was the captain, who was much more older than us, and he also grew up in the traditional teachings and belief system, says, hey, Halloween's 2 weeks from now. So that's when they say that all these entities and these spooky things start coming out, because that's a time of celebration and people celebrate. Just like the people who live in Mexico, they have the Day of the Dead celebration.
Mm-hmm.
There's also stories about creepy things happening because everybody's dressed up and got their face painted like skeletons. That the people who have passed on, they walk around their skeleton body and fit right in with the people, and people would say, look at them and said, there's a skeleton walking by and but it doesn't have any clothing. Just a skeleton. And so they said, okay, let's go home. So you hear stories from Mexico of those things happening too in Native American culture. And plus those people in Mexico are natives anyway. So they have that belief system, and that just dawned on my head because we're talking about spooks and everything, that probably cultures around the world do have scary stories like we do, or things that are inexplainable. We have our little people, and we all saw that. You have law enforcement who saw it, but yet they said, okay, it's time to go home.
Now, what are you supposed to do for little people when, like, what I've been taught is that you should always put out food for little people.
Yeah, and that's way our elders have always said is, when you got little people, put out little spirit plate. Like when we put out, just like when we start talking about spooks, before we started our native teachings, I had my eagle feather, kind of bless myself and everything be good. That way, everything in the stories that we talk about are going to flow. And then we smudge ourselves after we're done because we don't want to call the spirits in the afterlife down and kind of hang out with us, that we bless ourselves and they can go on their merry way and continue their journey. Little people, one of my friends told me, says, she contacted me, and she's a crow, and she said, you know where the little people are, don't you? I said, kind of, sort of. You know where the village is? Yeah, kind of, sort of. I heard stories, and they're right down from Crow in Wyoming, and the sandstone area is a big sandstone area. It's like probably thousands of little people. Well, I want to go talk to them. Why? Why are you going to bother them? They're not bothering you. No, I need to go talk to them because I need to go see. I said, well, she said, but I can't right now. I'm sick.
You want to talk to them, or she wanted to talk to them?
She wanted to talk to them.
Oh, okay.
The elders used to say, don't bother those little people. Always leave food for them so that they can have something to eat. And, they'll take care of you. Well, a year had transpired and she almost died. And so I went to see her and I told her, I said, so what happened? I heard you were real sick and I'm up here, so I thought I'd come see what's going on with you. She said, yeah, I almost died. And I said, I bet I know why. She said, you do? You went down there without me and you went to go see those little people, huh? She said, yeah, I did. I went down there where you kind of showed me the map where they would be, and I drove down there and walked around and stuff, and I could feel something. I knew something, and I went to the medicine man because I got sick immediately, and he said, little people's arrow hit you. So he had a doctor me, sent me to another medicine man. From there, they sent me to another medicine man. Everybody worked on me. I pulled out of it. I'm okay. I said, yeah, you look a little sick still. She said, yeah, all those medicine men get after me. He said, don't go down there, don't bother them. And now I'm stronger and I can see things, I can feel things, and that's what I wanted to see. And I said, but you almost lost your life doing that. So little people, we have to treat them with respect and dignity and honor and give them food. And sometimes it's like when we put a spirit plate out for our relatives who passed on. Well, sometimes we forget we put it in a regular plate and we say, oh, I better go get my plate. Well, that spirit plate that we put out, the food's gone. But yet there's no animals or anything there. So that also makes you wonder, the spirits are real. They do eat, they do drink. And when you go back, it's like one time I was in Yellowstone at Jenny Lake and I was down there, I just got out of the Sundance and went there to recuperate. I put some fruit, some stuff, sandwiched a little piece of sandwich meat there, and I put it in a spirit plate, took it, or a napkin, put it down there, put some rocks on it so it won't blow away. And so maybe took a nap, and then I woke up because the water was crashing real heavy and the winds were making noise. So, I better go get that napkin. Went down there, everything I laid out was gone. So I'm like, looking around, make sure there was no bears, because there was bears in that country, but there was nothing. And I'm just like, okay, maybe that's why the spirits were crashing the waves against the shore to wake me up to go get that napkin, because it was just kind of moving around in the wind and got it. So those things exist. We can't explain how did that happen or why did that happen, but those spirits do eat.
Yeah.
And I bet you anything out there, to all the listeners, each and every one of us have stories like that. From spooky stories of the buildings to the little people and to the spirits. And that's why it's, our elders, and it doesn't matter what indigenous tribe we belong to, we all have that same belief system. Feed the spirits, take care of your ancestors from long ago, and feed them and make sure that they're taken care of, because they do exist. And with Halloween around the corner, and those stories from Day of the Dead to the spirits and to the unknown, because there's so many unknown things that are unexplainable and spooky and scary that do exist. I remember when I first went to work for the police department here, the officers told me, because I was just a rookie, a baby, basically. They said, oh yeah, when you drive down that road, you go down that way, you're going to hit a little foggy area and your police car is going to go down, like somebody got in the back seat. And then you go down the road some more and you'll hit that little cloud bank or foggy area by that bridge. All of a sudden your car rises up. That person you gave that caught a ride with you got off. So you're going to do that. So they told me, go down that way and go check, make sure everybody's okay, the houses and stuff, and make sure no accidents. driving down that way. Sure enough, there's that foggy cloud bank there. And I'm driving, all of a sudden the car backseat goes down.
Mhm.
You know, kind of want to looking back, but don't want to look back.
So basically, you became an Uber driver at that point. You were driving somebody. Okay.
Actually, I get down to the bridge and I'm thinking of a story, and you get this, the back of your neck, the hair stands up, and you don't want to dare looking back because they always tell you don't looking back because you're going to see something. And one time, you know, when I got to the bridge, sure enough, the car rised up and looked. Then I looked in back and nobody back there. I gave that person a ride, but then one time I remember looking in back because they said don't look in back unless you see lights, headlights behind you. Looking back and there's green eyes looking at me, and I'm
Hi.
looking at the bearded boy. Moved that mirror up, so I'm looking back.
I'm looking. I swear to God, I'm not looking.
Yeah, I did. It's like move that mirror up. And how many times has that happened to us?
When the kids were younger in their teenage years, I would take them to like these rumored areas of southeast Pennsylvania, where supposedly there's a lot of haunted areas, haunted spots. And so there was a bunch of us, me, a neighbor, and her kid, and all my kids. And we were driving in this like day before Halloween or something like that. We went to see a certain area in the countryside. We're driving along, and then we went to a cemetery, didn't we? Do you remember that? We went to a cemetery because your friend Leanne was there.
Well, we went there, yeah, and we all got out at this military memorial.
Yes.
And I just remember everyone left the car doors open, if that means anything or not. But I just kept looking back like, you should have left the car doors open. Yeah, and there's a spirit known to hitchhike in that area. So when we got back in the car, you know, there's that screen with the GPS system, and our house location was already logged into the system. So she pressed the button to go home, and it literally took us across the street into this little suburban area, all the way back into this dark area with old houses that seemed to be abandoned. And the story behind it was that the lady didn't, like, she lived across the street somewhere. We didn't know where. But
yeah, it took us home, but apparently the home was down this
dark road.
Yeah, at dead end.
It's like a horror movie.
Yeah.
And then it said, "You are now home."
Yeah, the navigation said, "You are now home." We're like, "What?"
No, you and Nettie were like, "Oh, wait, this machine got it wrong." But like all the kids like immediately ran out of the car.
Yeah.
We all screamed, ran out. But like, I don't know. I mean, I've had incidents where I'm like driving on the highway and I feel like a kicking behind my car seat. And
I remember
this one night, I
that.
seriously thought that there was like a person in my car, and that I was gonna like get kidnapped or, you know, killed or stolen. I don't know. So I like I was an idiot and put my hand behind the seat to feel around. And I did look back there too. I was driving, so just like gotta keep driving and get home. And the whole time I just like felt like knees and, you know, kicking. It just I thought it was cool. I always think it's cool when things happen.
Yeah. Well, Sam has a history of, I mean, you have history. I mean, rich history of ghosts. I guess spirits. I don't know what to call them. Like, what would we call them? I would call them spirits. I don't really call them ghosts, but she's had a rich history of all these spiritual activity around her.
Well, yeah. Well, with the fall thing, I always get really skeptical when things don't happen. I become like that. I go into that white person mentality and I'm like, those don't exist. Those are just like fun stories. I didn't actually see that. But yeah, and over the summer it's always pretty dry, at least for me. But like it's once like the fall hits, that's when things begin to happen and spice up a bit. And actually this month or September, I was driving home from work, and you know, it's completely dark. The streets are bare. No one's walking on the sidewalk, and I see someone walking on the sidewalk. It's like 9:30 at night, And I just like I want to look at that person's face, make sure it's not like a kid or a woman walking by themselves. So like as I pass them, I look at them and like slowly, they just kind of, they're not there anymore. And it's kind of like you're looking at them in a certain light. And then like,
You said they didn't have a face anymore, right?
no, as I pass them, everything kind of, slowly dissipated. And yeah, there wasn't a face.
Ew.
But like the back of them was, I thought that was a person.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are out there that are faceless. Or I remember one time coming back from a powwow, and we were just starting out singing. We were down in Gallup, New Mexico. Went to a powwow dinner, and my mom went with me, and of course she enjoyed powwows. And so it was probably 2 o'clock at night. Gallup to my home was a little over 3 hours, pitch dark. And this story deals with the skinwalkers, which is Navajo belief system is no, 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 no. You don't talk about those. Those are no, don't talk about them. And so in the back of my mind, as I'm driving, cruising up the road, 55 was the speed limit, going 60, 65 sometimes because the roads would dip. It wasn't straight like it is today, but it used to dip. So we're going up there, and my mom was sleeping, and look over as she was sleeping. All of a sudden, I see way up the road, I see green eyes way up there in the darkness as the light's hitting it. Of course, going down the dips, and you could see it still sitting there. But the interesting thing was that the green eyes were much more higher level than a dog. And I'm thinking, oh, great. I wonder if that's a skinwalker. Get closer, closer, driving towards it. And sure enough, it's a black dog, this massive black dog sitting high, probably 4 feet high or more. I mean, and I'm just driving, I'm looking over at it, and it's looking at me, just kind of watching me drive by, and we're looking, and like a big wolf's face, it's showing its teeth, and like it's smiling, looking at me as I'm cruising by, and so I hit the gas, 65, 70, 75, because I knew that's what. And then all of a sudden, I'm looking down the speedometer. We're just cruising, going up and down the dips and everything. And I'm watching. Then all of a sudden, right over here, if you were to put your finger, you could feel movement on the side of your eye. I'm just looking straight ahead, but I could see something moving. And then I'm looking at the speedometer, and I'm going 80, and this thing is just running, real easy, just running. And then finally, I decided to get the courage, and I look over like that, real slow, and on the straightaway. So I'm holding the steel straight, so the truck keep going. I'm looking, and he's looking at me like that, smiling at me, just running like that, real easy.
How did he?
Looking, and I'm looking at the speedometer. We're doing 80, and I know that there's a curve coming up, and this thing went straight across. And I'm going 80, so he had to be going, and it just ran right in front of me real easy. And it cuts across because the curve's coming. So I'm thinking, I'll bet you it's going to be at the other end of that curve. So we'll go around, and I kind of slowed down because, it's 80 mile an hour if we're going. So I slowed down enough to make the turn. And sure enough, there was those lights, the eyes of the skinwalker. And I'm looking, and he's just looking at me like that, and I'm just kind of watching him, and left me alone. But that was spooky. That was eerie. And so, yeah, they exist.
I don't know how, the question I have for you is, I don't know how you stayed on the road, because I know I would have like flown off the road into a ditch somewhere.
Yeah. That's why, I waited for a straightaway to come up so I could hold the wheel straight and still and be able to look, because I had to look, because curiosity is what killed the cat. Fortunately, we were okay. One time, because on the subject of skinwalkers, I had a friend. I was here on my reservation, and I just happened to be at the casino, and he said, "Hey, I've been looking for you all over the place." And he was Navajo, young Navajo guy. Well, we're same age, and so I said, "Oh yeah, I'm over here. So how you been doing and everything?" And he had this look of fear in his face, and I said, "Are you okay?" Yeah, he said, I've been going around traveling to all of my friends and telling them bye for the last time." I looked at him and said, "Bye? What do you mean bye? Sound like you're gonna die or something. You sick? You okay?" He said, "Yeah, I'm okay health wise, but on the spiritual side, no, I'm not okay." So I said, "Well, let's go over here, get coffee, and we'll sit and talk." And he said, "Yeah, that'd be good because I'm, he was shaking. I mean, like a leaf." And I'm like, "Are you okay?" Touch his head. "No, you don't have a fever. What's the matter?" And he takes a sip. He said, "You better sit down and brace yourself." So I'm thinking, what the heck? So he's telling me, he says, "I used to drink after I got out, we graduated. I did things and worked, and then I ended up hitting a bottle and drinking all the time." He said, "One day I was drinking at all this beer, and I'm an alcoholic." "Oh, okay. We can stop. You don't have to be alcoholic." "No, too late." And he's told me, he says, one day I was drinking all by myself, had a little bonfire, had all my beer there, and then it was down in Navajo land. And he said, "You've been to this one area, haven't you?" I said, "Yeah, it's all flat." "No, it's not flat." He said, "There's an area in there. It looks like it's flat when you're driving by, but it's not." He says, "You go down and then it opens up like a little canyon, everything, and but you could look on top. It looks flat." He said, "One day I was sitting there with my bonfire, just drinking by myself, and probably 2 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden I heard drumming. I'm thinking, drumming? Who's singing out here?" So I went. I could by sound. I went, and the moon was full moon, so I could see the trees. And I walked real slow. Then I saw fire, and I'm looking there through the trees like that, and the juniper trees, and looking over there, and I could see people naked and naked. Yeah, men and women, Indians, were naked, and this man had a wolf's headdress on or a wolf's outfit on, and he had that drum. He's singing, and I was watching, and then he feed these people something or put it in their mouth. Then they go over there, and then pretty soon they were changing like a wolf. Watched them. Then he went over, and then he put on the skin, and next thing they're on all fours, turning into a skinwalker. And I sobered up just that quick, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm gonna get out of here. But that time, right when I was getting ready to leave, somebody tapped me like that. Look, it was this animal, like a skinwalker, looking at me. He says, "Come on with me." Walk over to that medicine man, and the medicine man said, "You seen what we've been doing?" "Yeah." "You have two choices. One is we could kill you, or you join us." He said, "Well, I didn't want to die, and I was sober." I mean, he said, "I was sober. I was staggering, but I was not staggering." So he started singing, told me, "Put this on, go over there, put those clothes on." Next thing I'm looking around, I could see through that wolf's eyes, and I could look like daytime, but it's nighttime, but I could see real clear. They said, "We're going down to Phoenix." We took off running through these trails and all the way down the river, get wet. Over there, next morning, we're at Phoenix. All those skins are laid out, clothes over there, we put it on, walking around Phoenix that morning. Then they said, "Okay, we're going to go back." Go back over there, and another medicine man sing, put that thing in my mouth, and come running back on a reservation town again, just that quick. And he said, "That's why I'm going to leave." And I said, "Well, maybe go see another medicine man." He said, "I did. They won't touch me. They won't do anything." They said, You've been touched by that skinwalker." too strong, too powerful. No, we're not going to do it. They just kind of told me, no, you got to leave. You know what? Those things around here. So 3 weeks later, I just happened to look at the newspaper from New Mexico, and I was online. And there was this picture, and he took his life. He was true to his words. He killed himself. But that story always stuck out with me, that those skinwalkers do exist. And, because I seen it. And mind you, this isn't the first time where I seen supernatural or unbelievable things on Navajo land. But they do exist. And you hear, I have Navajo friends who tell me stories about skinwalkers. Another one, when I lived in Craig, Colorado, there was this story came from a non-native who used to work as a BIE police officer in Washington State. So he told me some stories from Washington State with the native tribes up there. But this one, because it was, we're talking about skinwalkers, he said, we were drinking coffee one day in his house, and he said, you believe in skinwalkers? I started laughing. I was like, yeah, why? Oh, I got a story for you. He said, I'm white, but I used to work on the Navajo reservation. I said, yeah. I said, what happened? He said, one day we get this phone call. This guy comes in to the police officer. All the Navajo officers are there, and they're all talking Navajo. Of course, I would pick up a little bit of language, and I kind of knew what they were talking about. Sometimes they'd be telling jokes, everybody's laughing. This man comes in, said, I haven't saw Joe Charlie up there. Usually, and I'm just making up a name. And he said, usually Joe Charlie comes down past the house, drinks water, then goes sheep herding. But he hasn't been by the house for 2 days. I'm kind of worried. I don't want to go up there because it's rough, rugged road. And he sheep herds. So he said, okay, we'll go check. So they drew a map and how to get up there, 4 wheels, rugged and everything. And then we see this person on the road, or 2-track road, laying there naked. And we stopped, but it's quite a ways off, so we walked. Looking at this naked guy, and he had a bullet hole right through the lower back. You could see the bullet hole. And then we looked, and it was towards the top. I'm like looking, so we walked around the side, that body, could see his tracks. The dirt was so fine and dusty, you could see his tracks. As we're walking, he's laying there, naked body, but then we're looking, and his tracks are probably about that big, like my skinwalker story, that one I told earlier, but it was animal tracks. And they walked back. Okay, it's human here, animal there. And he's looking at, tells his Navajo partner, he says, what happened? Well, what's going on? You'll see when we get over to that house, hopefully everybody's okay. So we walked by, and we're following this animal track because it was imprinted on the sand or dust. So they get over there, and they see a shotgun hole at the doorway, probably 3 feet high from the ground. You could see the hole there and blood right there by the doorway. So he points down and points at the door, and Navajo officers nodding. They knock on the door. Police, Navajo police, open the door. No, you're not Navajo police. Navajo police, open the door. Hit the door hard. No, you're not. Show me your badge. Opens that door a little bit. Shows him badge. Open the door, we're going to arrest you. Opens that door to old man. What happened? Why is there a dead man down there? Oh, that man down there, or that thing down there, we were taking my sheep down that way, sheep herding. That man says, I want your sheep. I want to eat. No, you're not going to have my sheep. I'm going to call Wolfman. He's going to come to your house that night. Tonight. You don't give me sheep. He said, no sheep. Goes back, tells his wife what happened. They lock everything up tighter than a doorbell. lock up the door, lock up the windows. Has his gun ready. They're barely sleeping. Doesn't want to sleep. All of a sudden, they hear on top of that whole gun footprints. Something walking on top. Comes down, tries to bang on that door to get in. He says, "Go on, get out of here. Get out of here." "No, I'm want sheep, or I'm gonna kill you all." "No." He pushes that door, rattles that door real hard, grabs his gun, shoots. Low, low like an animal. How high an animal is. Hears it yell and takes off. So they hear it that night. So he was afraid. That one whole day they stayed in the house. And then that next day, that's when the officers came and said, so the officers are looking at the ground, probably a foot and a half high. They could see the bullet hole or a shotgun hole. And so they're walking. It's a animal's footprint from the doorway to where it is, and then changes to human. They walk back, because the and he said, "Do you believe what's happening here, Skinwalker?" "Yeah, it's an animal this way, then human, and then 2 steps and dead." He said, and then so he said, I told my partner, says, he's human at this end. We have to call the FBI because a murder, somebody died on a reservation. FBI is going to clear it. So they go up to the hill where there's radio signal, call the FBI, wait there half a day. FBI comes out, guys in suits, looking. Okay, where's the murderer at? Because they see the dead body. No. Before you start calling anybody murderer, you need to walk this trail, follow the tracks. So the FBI, he said, get one on this side, one on this side, but walk on the side, don't walk in the middle. Walk on the side because you don't know, something in that middle might jump on you or get on you. Spirits. FBI looking at each other, spirits. You'll see. So the Indian cop is just kind of snickering. The white guy's kind of grinning. He said, FBI's what sees the footprints, human. And then one of them says, what the hell? Walks back. Wait. Human footprints. Animal footprints. What the hell do we have here? No, you got to walk it. They go up there, walk it all the way to the house, ask the mailman what happened. He tells them. They look at the door. One of the FBI agents gets down on all fours. Okay, if I'm an animal, yeah, getting shot, I'd be at this level. Sure enough, okay, he was an animal. They walk back. They don't know what to think because these guys are educated non-natives, FBI agents. Walks back. Okay, it's an animal. Now it's human. What'd you guys call this? Skinwalker. Okay, it's a skinwalker from here to here and then a human. FBI is talking amongst themselves. They go back to the police officers. Okay, as far as we're concerned, the time it was shot was an animal, no human involved. We're out of here. Wait, but you have a human body at the other end. No. We write this up. We're going to be sent to Alaska by our supervisors thinking we're crazy, and we're out of here. It's an animal. Well, what do we do with this? It's you guys' problem.
Dang.
So my friend, the non-native, he's laughing. He says, do you know what we did? I said, no. Interesting, but what? Well, we had to charge him because we had a dead body here. So we charged him shooting. What was the charge? Something shooting an animal, no license or something crazy. So we had to take it to court. We go to court. We give the old man a ticket. He goes to court. We go after him. Give no transportation. Go to court. Tell the judge what happened. Judge is looking. Old man Navajo says, in all my years, this is the third story something like this happened. At the time of the death, it was an animal. When it came down, it went to human. The bullet wound entered the body here, and he was bleeding to death as an animal. Case dismissed. And so they're talking Navajo to that old man. Said, and they translated for him. He said, "Did you bless yourself? Did you do everything, do the house, and bless everything that happened?" Old man said, "Yeah, I did that after we went back and stuff." They said, asked him, said, "Does he have any more relatives close by you, so we could watch him?" He said, "No, he was the only one that did that." So I told my friend, the non-native officer, "So what'd you think of that?" He said, "I've been amongst with native people all my life and worked with them, and I heard so many stories, and I have some more stories I could tell you, but this was the top story of a skinwalker because we actually saw it." So those things exist. I mean, they do exist, and so I told him, said, "Well, what did you do?" I had to go to ceremony with my friend, and we sat in ceremony, and they cleansed me, and first time the medicine man ever had a non-native. Plus, I was an officer, so I went there, and I felt good after that. But before that, I said I didn't feel good, and my partner didn't feel good either, so we had to get cleansed. So that's why when I said we talk about the spiritual realm, we never know. And what happened to Will Sampson, because he also dealt in smudged in the movie theater, showing him to smudge. That's why smudging and purifying and cleansing our body is so important, because it's been told from the very beginning that today that we continue to smudge to ward ourselves from evil spirits, or even talking about things like that, because we just never know when we're going to open that door to the unknown, like what Will Sampson did. That's what he was doing to make those movies really fictional, actual, and scary. That those do exist.
All right, folks, so that is all the time we have for this episode. If you liked what you heard today, come back tomorrow to hear the rest of these stories in part 2 for the Halloween special. All right, everyone, good night and goodbye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us.